Find product links below and hundreds more videos on my channel.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So this has been requested quite a lot. It's a tutorial on how to use the Konova Smart Motion controller with the pan tilt head. So let's get started. First of all, we have the main controls of the system. We have up, down, left, right with this joystick, and that's used to control the menu as well as to control the direction of the slider and the motion of the pan tilt head. Then we have a go button and a back button. So we'll press the enter button to start. This here is the main menu. So first of all, we're going to look at the settings. We'll go into here, and the first option we have here is motor settings. So we'll go to that, and over here we have a few options. We have the gear ratio, which tells this unit which motor you're using on the slider, and that's the motor at the end which controls the left-right movement. Then over here we have the motor direction, and this is just so that if you're standing at this side of the slider instead of that side of the slider, you don't have to spin the slider all the way around. All you have to do is change this, and basically that means that if I now press right, this is going to go that way. If I change this to clockwise, then when I press right, it's going to go that way. So basically just the direction in which you are standing. We have the motor correction option, and this basically gives you a finer control over how much power you want to get from your motor, and power basically related to speed. So it's basically a fine adjustment of your speed of the main slider motor. Now we'll go down onto the next option in the settings. The next page is LCD and buzzer settings. Pretty simple. We have LCD brightness and buzzer on and off. Next we have pan tilt direction, and this is basically just down to preference. So I have it set to normal, but you can set it to reverse. So basically, for example, right now if I press down, it's gonna go down. Whereas if I have it set to reverse, if I press down, it's gonna go up. So basically whatever you prefer, just reverses the direction. Then over here we have the factory default. That just resets the unit. Now again, here in the main menu, the first thing we'll take a look at is live motion, and that's because you use the live motion option to set up your shot and move the slider to where you want it, and then aim your shot how you like it. So we'll go into live motion. So first of all, first thing we have is a very basic move. We go into slider move, and over here we can select the speed that we want this to move. So I'm just going to go with 100. And then over here we have slide ramp frame. Now ramp frame is basically a sort of gradual start and stop to your moves, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to set this to 100. And then I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to press enter, and after I press enter, then I can select the direction I would like, and I'm going to go this way. As you notice, it starts gradually and then stops gradually. Now, if you're not using this for live motion shots, meaning actual real-time filming, then you definitely want to select this and turn it off. Because if you have this on and you take slightly too long to react to what your slider is doing, it could move too far. And so for example, right now, if I move this way, if I didn't let go in time, it would have hit this. So you definitely want to turn off ramp frame in all the options unless you're shooting live motion. But if you're just using this to set up time-lapse shots, then turn off your ramp frame. Now here we can see what this looks like without ramp frame turned on. It starts quickly and stops quickly. So I'm going to leave that there. Then I'm going to go back into the live motion menu, and I'm going to go down to the next option, which is pan tilt move, and this will allow me to control the pan tilt head. So first of all we have pan speed, which is that motion, and then we have tilt speed, which is that motion. And again, we have pan tilt ramp frame. We want to turn off ramp frame unless we're doing live moves. And then we can press start, and then I can control the unit just using the joystick. Now, it's very important to be very careful with what you're doing here, because you don't want to end up pressing one piece against another. So you don't want the camera to press up against one of the motors, or one of the motors to press up against this, etc. So when you're using this, be very careful, pay attention to what you're doing. So back here in the live motion menu, the third option is pan and tilt plus slide. So we'll go into that. And over here we have the slide speed, which I've set to 1%. We have the ramp frame, which I have set to 0, as I explained earlier. That is the gradual starting and stopping of the move. And then we have pan speed and tilt speed. I've set both of these to 50%. And then what we can do is we can go enter, and after we press enter, we can select the direction that we want to move in. So I'm going to select left right now, and so that's started the move. So now it's moving, and right now it's moving towards me. And then once that's moving, I can then control the head however I'd like. Okay, so the last option in the live motion menu is the auto move option. Now, auto move is going to give us two things. First of all, it's going to allow us to do a repeatable move. Then it also allows us to do a time lapse with the motion from the pan tilt motor as well as the regular motor, with a camera that doesn't have a direct connection to this system. So we separately set off the camera, whether you're using an app inside the camera to trigger the time lapse, or whether you're using just an external trigger. And that allows us to use cameras that don't have a connection for this system. So we'll go into that. And then again, we have the speed. That's going to be the speed of our motion along the slider. We have the ramp frame, which again I've set to 0%. Then we have the time which we want this move to happen over. So I'm going to set this, for example, to 5 seconds. And I'm going to set our speed to 1%. And if you want this to go even slower than what it gives you at 1%, then you can go into the main menu. Let me show you how to do that. We can go into the main menu in the settings, and we'll go into motor settings, and then we'll change the motor correction. So we'll move this downwards to make this go slower. We'll move this. We have plus 15 and minus 15 and anywhere in between. So back to the live motion menu and auto move. So again, we have speed, ramp frame, which again is the gradual motion, starting and stopping. Then we have time set to 5 seconds and repeat. So let me show you how the repeat works. I'm going to set the time to 1 second, just to make it quick. And I'm going to set it to repeat this 3 times. And 1 repeat equals bringing it back to the original position. So I've already set this to move, so let's just do a very simple move, and I'm just going to go okay. So now we'll go into the pan tilt settings, and this will control what our pan tilt head does during the move. So first of all, we have pan duration, so we've set this over here to 1 second, and then over here next we have the direction, so it's set to left. Next we have speed, which I've set to 100, and repeat. Now the repeat will be limited to the amount of times that you can do this move during your total time. So the total time will be the length of time that this travels across the slider, and then this total time for the tilt will be limited to how long you can, so for example right now I'm limited to 5 because I'm only moving the camera on the slider for 5 seconds. But if I have this set to 5, I won't be able to do any repeats. I will need to set this, for example, if I set this to 2 seconds, I will be able to repeat this 3 times during that total 5 seconds. So next we have the tilt duration and the tilt direction, the tilt speed, and the tilt repeat. And again, this repeat is what's happening during the one move, and then this repeat is how many times you want to repeat the entire move. So now when we want to start the move, we'll press enter on there, and then we'll just select the direction that we want to go in. And now it's doing a repeat. So now from the main menu, we'll go into the time-lapse menu. And we have a few different options here. First of all, interval move will be the place where we go to actually start the time-lapse move. Then we have the camera settings, which will basically calibrate this unit with your camera, and I'll explain that in a second. And then we have pan motor settings, which is what you want the pan to do, and the tilt motor settings, which is what you want the tilt motor to do during your move. So first of all, let's look at the camera settings. Now the camera settings will calibrate this unit to work at the same time as your camera and set it off at the correct time. So first of all, we have the focus time, and that will tell the Konova Smart Motion Controller how long to wait and allow the camera to focus. So for example, over here, we have set it to 1 second, and we can set it to, for example, 2 seconds. So basically, this is the amount of time that we're going to let the camera autofocus or let whoever is using the camera manually focus. Then under that, we have the exposure time, and this is how long the Konova is going to wait before it starts counting down your actual shot wait time. So let's set our exposure time to 5 seconds, just as an example. And then the shot wait is how long you want it to wait between shots. And again, these are all things that just calibrate this with your camera. These aren't options that actually control the camera. So let's bring this back down to, let's say, 1/4 of a second exposure time and a 1 second wait time. Okay, so next here we have the pan motor settings, and we have the initial direction that we want to go in. So we will select left, and we have the cut angle, and cut means a shot. So the cut angle will be, let's say, for example, 1 degree. So that's going to tell it to move 1 degree per shot. And this is over here how many shots total we want it to move in this pan. So we'll set this to, let's say, 23 moves. And these two options will be based on what your total is. So if your total is only 50 shots, this won't go above 50. And then you have the delay cut here, and so that's how many shots you want to wait before it starts to do your pan. So how many shots along the slider you want it to wait before it starts to do your pan. So let's set this to 1 shot. This basically allows you to move halfway along the slider and then start to pan or tilt. Then tilt motor settings are exactly the same. I'll go over them again. We have the initial direction, which is over here up or down for the tilt. Then we have the cut angle, and again, cut is Konova's word for a shot inside this menu. So cut angle, we'll set that to, let's say, 1. And total cut are the total amount of shots that we want us to move in the pan direction. And so let's say 50 shots we want it to pan, and then stop panning at 50. And then how many shots we want to delay. So let's say we don't want to delay this at all. So that means that from the start of the slider move, it will also start to tilt. So now that we've selected all our settings, we can go into interval move from within the time-lapse menu. And then over here we have a few more options that we can select before we start the move. So over here we have L left or right, and I apologize, I don't know what this L stands for. Then we select which direction we want to go, and then press enter to select how many millimeters we want to move. And these aren't precise to the millimeter, and you can fine-tune the amount that each one of these millimeters moves using the motor correction setting under the main menu settings. So we'll select 5 millimeters per frame, and then over here we have total frames. So we've selected 100 cuts, so we can press enter and select however many frames we'd like this to move. And then over here we have interval time, which is how long it's going to wait between each shot. So I'll set that to 1 second, and then we can start. And that will move based on your settings. Now you'll notice in the move that I just did that the camera wasn't actually taking pictures. And that's because the camera that I'm using for demonstration is the Sony NEX6, which actually has no connection at all for an external trigger. So in that case, what we would do if we wanted to shoot a time lapse with a camera like that is we would go into live motion from the main menu, and we'll go into auto move, set the pan motors and the slide motors to do whatever we like over whatever duration we like. So we can tell it to take an hour to go across the slider, and tell it to move the head a certain amount of degrees in whatever directions we want. And then we'll just set the camera to shoot an hour-long time-lapse using the built-in time-lapse application in the NEX6. Or if it's a camera that does not have a built-in time-lapse application, then you could use an external trigger or simply trigger the camera manually. Alright, and that's pretty much it. So hopefully you found this helpful. As you can see, the Konova system is pretty easy to use and pretty fast once you get used to it. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe and check out my other videos. And I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.